Our next conversation is going to be on PSS. PSS.
Tire deflation.
PSS.
Breathing.
Public Service Superannuation Scheme. PSSS. PSS.
CT, please say
Why don't you make it more interesting and ask me to say press up?
press ups.
Do press ups. The CEO of the Public Service Superannuation Scheme, Dr. Jonah Ayaibei, is our guest. Good morning, Dr. Ari.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you very
That's
much.
the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Okay.
Am I right? Is it PSS? What do you people call it when you're office?
PSSS. So it is actually PSS. You're very right.
At where do you work? I work at
All right.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
You guys haven't come up with something to call it? Because how many Kenyans can actually say superannuation?
You start with super and you leave it there. Super and you mumble the rest.
The Public Service Superannuation Scheme.
Okay.
Yeah. Dr. Ari, CT has the day's proverb. You know, of course, that CT every week goes across Africa, goes to one country, mines proverbs from what country, and every day gives us one different proverb. This time, we are in West Africa.
Oh, really?
Nigeria specifically. He has a pidgin proverb. Listen to the pidgin and say it in English. Okay, we'll help you. You listen to CT's pidgin, and then you listen to pidgin. And then
So this pigeon is quite fun.
Okay. So there's a proverb coming up?
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Count to 3. 1,
Two.
2, 3. No matter how lizard they go press up, a no-go get chest like alligator. Okay, do.
It doesn't get old. We've done it 3 times, 4 times this morning. Okay, when you see E on its own in pigeon, it's air.
Oh.
No, you say air, but it's E.
It's E.
E, no go.
Okay, not enogo.
Not enogo. That's something else.
That's a place.
E, no go.
Yes.
What was the proverb again?
No
No
matter.
matter how lizard they go press up, E no go. Is it enogo?
E, no go.
Okay, E no go
Get
get
chest.
chest like alligator.
No matter how lizard they do press up, it no go get chest like alligator.
Right.
Alligator.
Wow. So
Do you
that
understand
sounds-
it?
Oh, yeah. So which one is...
Say it in English.
Okay. My interpretation in English, I think it's no matter how much the lizard does press ups, it can never be like an alligator.
Thank you very much.
Is that a better one? I think.
Pidgin is English.
But it is English. That's why it's called pigeon English. It's English.
Okay. Okay.
What's your interpretation of it?
Okay, a quick one. I think no matter how much you do what you're doing, you can never change your form. If you are, there are some things that you are given and you will still remain the same person you are, however much you try to change.
You'll still remain who
There are
you are.
things that you are given, yeah. Yes.
That's you, that's you.
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Come on, ni kodosho, ni kodosho. Bwana CEO,
Yes, sir.
it's the first time that the three of us, for sure, have heard of the Public Service Superannuation Scheme. Yes. What is it?
First of all, it's interesting that the first time this act has been in existence from the 2012. We are talking of over 10 years since the act was enacted in Kenya. And the act which is enacted is basically the Public Service Superannuation Scheme Act of 2012. And these are law. Let me just begin from the legal framework.
Okay.
So the law was enacted to provide for a way at which public servants can be able to make a contribution for their retirement benefits. So this is a situation where each and every employee within the public, within the civil service and the disciplined forces can make a regular contribution to the fund, and the funds are invested, and eventually when they exit from service, they can have something that they can be able to call a pension for their own.
What are they doing before the Act?
Very, very interesting. The Act came into being in 2012, but you will be aware that Kenya has been providing pension benefits to civil servants and all these other groups that I've mentioned. And the arrangement then was through a non-contributory fund, what we call the government pension scheme. The pension scheme which was just being given as you exit, and it was the payment was it was actually using the Kenyan tax. You provide a taxation for that particular year, estimate the people who are retiring, and those who are in retirement provide a budget for pension and pay them through a budgetary provision, and the arrangement was non-contributory. So this new one now is a contributory arrangement.
Okay.
Funded contributory pension fund. The one we are dealing with, the previous one was non-contributory.
So the government is no longer contributing to it?
It's not matching it.
Oh, okay. Let me make it very clear. The original one, as I did mention, and it's still in existence. I will explain how the two are running parallel. The original system was that you serve government for a given number of years. Then at the point of exit, they determine your benefits based on a formula. That is the number of years you served. Then they can now say, we will promise you this a particular amount of benefit. But while in service, the employees then were not contributing. From their basic salary, there was no contribution. And at the same time, the government was not setting aside a fund that they will use to pay. What they used to do is that what happened is that when you exit, then every year the government provides a budget and say how many people have retired, how many are enjoying monthly pension in their retirement, and they set aside a budget. Now, the new one now under the Public Service Superannuation Scheme is that employees will contribute a portion of their basic salary every month, and the employer, which is the government in this case, will contribute another additional. I'll give you the specific rates. And therefore, when this funds is put together, it is invested now. And when you exit, we now check at your account and say, how much have you contributed for the time you're in service? How much did the government give you? And how much return went into that particular account, and we pay from that particular account unit or that particular fund. So this is a contributory funded scheme.
So it's like
the other one was not funded, it was not contributory.
It's a pension scheme like we see in the private sector.
Absolutely.
The private sector has various pension schemes.
Occupational pension schemes, yes.
Regulated by the Retirement Benefits
and
Authority.
And we are one of the funds regulated by the Retirement Benefits Scheme.
So why not call this a pension scheme? Why come up with this whole long superannuation story?
That's a very interesting one. Of course, new terms takes time to really settle in people's mind. There is nothing wrong calling it a superannuation, because in strict definition of what a superannuation is, it refers to basically a regular contribution of an employee to a fund for their retirement benefits, really. So there is nothing wrong calling it a superannuation scheme, because we are making regular contributions as I've defined. So the other pension funds also make regular contributions. So there is nothing wrong if it was in the thinking that we could have called it a public service pension scheme instead of using the word superannuation. But you see, again, if you talk of civil servants pension scheme, the original defined benefit scheme may not create a major difference. So I case in the wisdom of those who came up with the act, which is rightly so, to create a differentiation and still not lose the meaning and the purpose of it, was to use the good term superannuation.
Okay. So this operates in, existence with other schemes that still exist, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right? But we're looking at it from a government point of view.
Absolutely.
So since 2012, when this act came into place, people have been receiving their pension?
Okay, let me put it this way. The act was enacted in 2012. The scheme was operationalized in 2021, 9 years after.
Could you explain why?
There was a time lag between 2012 to the year 2021. My thinking is, of course, preparation from government, and of course ensuring that once you start it, you have adequate resources to finance it. So the whole idea was the act came into place, and just like many other regulations and legislative frameworks, there is the date of signing of the act and the date of commencement.
Yeah.
But this one, for some reason, took a little bit long, maybe around 9 years, and rather 9 years. And the commencement of operationalization of this PSSS scheme is January 2021. So we are fairly new. We are talking about 3 years. And of course, that explains the reason why even in this room, none of you have heard about superannuation, but this is a great opportunity.
I had heard of it myself.
So who is contributing here?
Very, very well. So we do exist to cover, and of course for the listeners and each and every other person, it's good to know who are the stakeholders, very critical stakeholders who are the members of this scheme. So we cover the members who are employees in the civil service. We also cover all the teachers, and we also cover all the disciplined forces, of course excluding the military. Disciplined forces here, we are referring to the police and the National Youth Service, and that now constitutes our membership. And if you can, just to mention, to give a context of what the membership that we have since we commenced in the year 2021, we now have around about 422,000 members. And in various categories. I think the majority of them are the teachers, who are around 244,000 members. Teachers countrywide are our members. We also have around 61,000 civil servants, those who are working in ministries and various other sectors. We are also talking about those who are in, I think, civil service. I said civil servants,
Disciplined.
teachers, the disciplined forces. We are talking of 115,000. So if you look at that number, we are
And
talking
disciplined here, we mean
we are referring to the police.
the military, the police.
Not the military as exclusive. I don't part of us. We don't cover them at the moment.
Okay.
They have their own scheme.
So it's the police,
The National Youth Service.
AWS.
No.
Administration police is involved
Yes,
in police.
let me put it this way: National Police
National
Service.
Police
Okay,
Service.
everybody.
I think it's a
Alright.
better way so that it covers the
And
administration
National Youth
police
Service.
and the regular police and the National Youth Service.
Okay.
So we have a big membership of over 422,000 at the moment. And of course, touching in every corner of this nation, whether you are from anywhere, I think we can have our member who benefits directly or indirectly.
So, obviously, this is pegged on their pay. It's pegged on remuneration, pegged on salary. I'm assuming, and please stop me if I'm wrong, that there's an amount then that is then taken off their salary and put away for the time where they'll retire.
Absolutely.
Okay, and so
Okay, just proceed.
So what period of time are we looking at here? And if this scheme came into place in 2021, we're talking about really when contributory, factors came into play.
Operationalization.
Operationalization, exactly. So how long are you looking at? 20 years, 25 years, 10 years? Or can you say, can I cash in after a year kind of thing? What happens?
Yeah, very, very, very good question, and thank you for that. Let me put it this way: it's a retirement benefits. So I think that the moment we have that context, that we are running a retirement benefits fund, it creates now the level of understanding that it is not a SACCO, it's not a short-term saving that you do in your bank. That after 2 or 3 days you can choose to say, can I cash in? So these funds are set aside for your retirement. And strictly on that context, as regulated by Retirement Benefits Authority, you can only access them upon retirement, that is exit from your formal service, or another way that you can that funds can be paid off is in an unfortunate situation that you pass on. So we normally tell people that those are the clear options that you can only get, but nobody would want to die anyway, because if you pass on, unfortunately, because people have to die really, while in service, then your beneficiaries it triggers now that we can be able to pay them. But as long as you're still in service, you earn your salary, but this one is set aside for your retirement.
As I'm listening, I'm wondering, so where does NSSF fit in?
Very, very good. NSSF is, of course, it's National Social Security Fund.
Yes.
And let me put it this way: the NSSF covers a wider spectrum of the population.
Yes.
I mean, whether you are in Chugakali sector, whether you are in the private sector, whether you are in government, it's a mandatory contribution, especially under what we call Tier 1. There is now Tier 1, Tier 2 contributions. So everybody contributes to NSSF, whether you are in the formal sector, whether you are in Whether you have your own private occupational scheme, you realize that you are mandated to contribute. Even if you are an employee in a private sector like Standard Chartered Group here, it's mandatory for every person who is an employee to make a contribution. So it's actually a baseline contribution. In general terms, under the World Bank categorization of universal social security provision, we have what we call Pillar 1, social security provision, or we start with from Pillar 0. Pillar 0 is what we understand as the cash transfers that we give to the old people, like case many of you might have seen, people who are given every month. Without any funding, they don't contribute anything, but because they are vulnerable, the government makes the provisions. So that's what is called the lower level, the lowest level of actually providing social security. So NSSF comes, say, under Pillar 1, because now it tries to reach everybody across. Now, the one that we are running, the Public Service Superannuation Scheme, is purely for a particular segment of employees, and this segment of employees is the employees who are in the civil service, in the disciplined forces, and of course the teachers. So that's what it means. If you come to Standard Chartered Group, like for this place, for example, you can have your own private occupational pension scheme. So instead of having so many occupational pension schemes for teachers and all this, we have all consolidated this under the public, or rather the civil servant pension fund, which we are calling the superannuation fund, to deal with them.
So you must still continue contributing to NSSF?
To the Tier 1 only.
To the Tier 1?
Tier 1 only.
And then, you know, with Tier 2, it's you opt.
You opt, yeah.
So then you can opt to put your Tier 2 contribution into your PSS.
Absolutely.
Or into any other scheme that you may want. But
so our members are not obligated really in the Tier 2 to take to the NSSF, because we already have a provision for them within the PSSS.
Is it mandatory for all these teachers, civil servants, police and NYS to contribute to the superannuation scheme?
Mandatory.
So you must contribute.
So long as you are employed on a permanent and of course pensionable terms, it is obligatory that you make a contribution.
And it's also obligatory for the employer.
Employer, right.
To also contribute.
To match, yeah.
So the Teacher Service Commission must match. The National Police Service Commission must match.
Yes.
And the Public Service Commission must also match.
Correct. Let me put the arrangement this way. Within the Act, it was made to be very easy. Remember, all these people, whether you are in TSC, whether you are in police service, for example, the ultimate contributor is the consolidated fund, which is the National Treasury.
Yes.
So what the arrangement is, as they pay you salary as a teacher in Teacher Service Commission, they remit your employee portion to the fund, which I said is 7.5% of your basic salary. Now, what the National Treasury will then do is they with knowing that how many teachers have paid their 7.5%, they paid the sponsor's portion, which is 15%. So you realize that if your salary is 100% basic, 100,000, for example, 100,000 basic salary, it means every month 7,500 will be deducted from your salary, and the government will provide 15,000. So what comes to my fund? 22,500. As it hits my account, I maintain a record. And then for all the 422,000 members, that's the model. So you put this in one basket, invest, but of course give a record that every member has contributed this, invest it. So once you invest, there is what you call investment return. So this investment return is shared proportionately, or rather in an equitable manner based on what you are actually contributed at a particular point, so that you have an investment return in your account. So ultimately, when you exit service, and I did mention how you people exit service, you will go to your account and say, what is it that we have in the balance? From that balance now is what we pay you your retirement benefits.
Plus interest.
Yes, I said your contribution, employer's contribution, and interest.
And interest accrued over the years.
All the years.
Okay. Dr. Jonah Ayaibei is the CEO of the Public Service Superannuation Scheme, PSSS. It came into operation in 2021. The law was passed in 2012. And so far, it is a pension scheme, basically, for teachers, for civil servants, for police, for NYS, just like we have pension schemes in the private sector. It's regulated by the Retirement Benefit Authority. It has its operations And civil servants, all these public servants are contributing to it. 440,000 public servants, public officers.
420,000.
420,000 are contributing to it every month. And the government is also contributing into this same scheme every month. It's a lot of money that you've been able to raise so far. I can imagine. How much?
Thank you very much. As at December, just the previous month, we have assets under management of 94 billion Kenya shillings.
Right.
And we receive on a monthly basis from the members around 1.2 billion. We receive from, of course, the sponsor, which is the government, 2.4 billion. So we are talking of a fund that receives around 3.6 billion on a monthly basis.
And this happens without fail.
Of course, in terms of member contribution, it's just on time. Of course, the one which comes from the sponsor, there is a bit of a time lag, which is not long because of reconciliation and getting to know the schedule.
Okay.
Yes.
What is the guarantee that folks who put their money aside, because that's what they're doing,
Yes.
after retirement, will get their money? Because we've always heard of, just the frustration for people having to go line up, basically beg for the money that is actually their own. Today's paper, on page 3, pensioners 30-year vain wait for a mere 74,000 shillings. We can call it a mere, but for a lot of people, that's a lot of money.
Yep.
They've been waiting for 30 years for this money. And even as we're talking, they have not yet received that money. And it's pension. Okay? And it is not from a private firm. It is from a government firm. Okay? So what's the guarantee that people who are saving, these 420,000 people and more to join whenever, will truly get their money at retirement?
Thank you very much. I think the matters of pension are always very emotional and very touchy, and more particularly because the people who are making the claims are often vulnerable. They are doing it at their old age, or they could be beneficiaries. And that question is very fundamental. As you contribute, you would want at exit to get your money accurately determined, and of course with good return. So what we guarantee the members is that we are operating within a very robust legal framework. Now, we are regulated by the Retirement Benefits Authority, and the funds, once they exit the sponsor, once they're deducted for you, they become your private funds. They are actually your money. We are maintaining your account. And there is no way, because now we are running a funded scheme. So when you exit, you have your funds in the account with the return. That's why the government moved from non-contributory basis to now a contributory basis. So with the guaranteed legal framework, like the Retirement Benefits Authority provides that when a member exits, they should be paid their benefits within 30 days. And that is what we adhere to at PSSS, to ensure that when you receive your claim, we ensure that you get paid within your 30 days of exit. Because really, we have the liquidity, we have the funds. There is no reason whatsoever why we cannot be able to pay what is due for any member.
What happens to the people who had been working in any of these institutions, any of these commissions, teacher service or public service or the police service, for many years? Let's say somebody had worked for 20 years before 2021.
Okay.
So, of course, before 2021, they were eligible for the government pension.
Yes, the defined
which they were not contributing to, but the government was supposed to pay. And then since 2021, you are deducting them, they are being deducted, and they are contributing to this scheme. So upon retirement, are they going to receive 2 pensions? Actually 3, because there is an SSF as well. Are they going to receive from the government and from NSSF?
From NSSF. I think let me just put a clarification. The Department of Pension in the National Treasury is still in existence. I mean, it has not been closed. And the PSSS was, when it was operationalized in 2021, the regulations were very clear that it was onboarding members who are 45 years of age at that date or less.
Okay.
So you realize that those who are 45, 46 and above, up to 60, still remains under the Department of Pension. But at the same time, even those who are 45 and below and had accumulated some service period in government or whatever the sector they're serving, they are also entitled to benefits in the previous scheme. So the one that I will focus myself is the one from commencement in 2021 January to the time of exit. So if you exit, you are entitled to benefits from the old scheme, as you have rightfully said, which is a defined benefit scheme. Defined means that it's based on a formula that if you serve me for this duration, I'll give you this amount, and you don't have to fund it. Mine is funded. Purely what you contribute, and we'll be able to pay for that portion. So just to mention, Latif, is that for even the 3 years we have been in existence, we have already started paying benefits. In as much as the members that joined were 45 years of age and below, we have paid benefits to those who unfortunately passed on in service. So therefore, we have paid their beneficiaries the contributions their members made, the government contribution, and the interest therein. So we have already managed to compute that, and we have paid them to the claims that we have received so far.
So currently, all your contributors are below 48 years of age?
Well, there was also a clause in the law, let me put it clear. Those who are above 45 were given the optional to join, and very few of them decided to opt. They prefer to remain in the guaranteed DP scheme. So we have a very small portion, less than 1% of our membership, who decided to join voluntarily. But for 45 years or those who are 48 and below and they were in service was mandatory. But anybody above were given the option on a voluntary basis.
Does it mean that anybody who's been hired by any of these institutions since 2021 does not have the other old scheme?
Absolutely. You don't, I mean, the other scheme was closed to future entrants.
That one has no longer has.
It does not admit any new members.
I see.
Yes.
The old members stay old.
The old members are the ones.
Yes. And they're still being paid their benefits.
Sure.
As per the formula, yes.
What does the scheme invest in? Because we understand that money that is taken doesn't just sit in the bank. There are investments that are made, considerably safe ones, to safeguard folks' money. So what are you investing in?
Very well. We do have, like any other pension scheme, we have a very clear investment policy. That is a guideline statement of investment policy whereby we determine areas of what we call diversification of our portfolio, so that at least you can be able to say you don't put your eggs in one basket. You have heard that saying. So we diversify the investment in various baskets to make sure that we get ultimate return. So the areas we invest are based on two things: the age profile of our members, the risk appetite that trustees and consultants believe needs to be taken on board, and the return expectation. So we have a very clear statement of investment policy that we have developed that identifies the areas of investment. And just to give some comfort to members is that this statement of investment policy falls in place within the boundaries set by the Retirement Benefits Act. And I think it's called Table G, where they give areas of investment. So it is a highly regulated sector. So RBA gives you that you can do, say, maximum investment of 30% of your assets in property. When we come into the scheme, we ask ourselves, we don't have to go to 30%. For us, because of our risk appetite, maybe we want to do 10%. So you operate within the maximum set by the Retirement Benefits Authority. So that is what we have done. We have developed the investment policy within the guidelines of the RBA, the Retirement Benefits Authority Act, and therefore that's what we are complying in. So at the moment, just to be very, very precise to areas that we have put our investments, being a new scheme and being cautious as we develop our systems, the trustees, we felt that for the last 3 years, we have been focusing on government securities. So we have put, I think around 73 billion of it are in government bonds, you know, the long-dated bonds, which includes the infrastructure bonds. We also have treasury bills, which is, I think, around 7% of the entire portfolio. And we have fixed-term deposits. Now, in this calendar year, the first quarter of the year, we are now going to do diversification. We are going to introduce investments and working closely with our investment managers, by the way, which you have already appointed. We are working on diversifying to equity markets, that is to play within our securities exchange market. We are also going to consider of course, as we are now developing our property policy, so that we can be able to go to various of policy. But we may not really focus on brick and mortar alone. We are also considering innovative property investment areas, such as if there will be some good REITs, D REITs or income REITs that are in the market. Those are the areas that we'll be considering.
You know, in our laws on retirement benefit schemes, you're supposed to have 3 complementary entities.
Yes.
So fund manager, is it trustee, and who's the other?
Yeah, the administrator.
And administrator.
Custodian.
So, okay. So there is custodian.
There's a custodian.
Administrator.
Fund manager.
And fund manager.
Yes.
And then where do you come in as a trustee?
Very well. Yeah.
Explain that.
Very, very, very critical. Let's put it this way. The fund is under trustees. So the owners of the assets, on behalf of all those members, are actually the trustees.
Okay.
So put it strictly, we are actually the agents, or we are actually working on behalf of the board of trustees, who are the owners of the assets. We offer a coordinating function as the CEO to make sure that the custodian is doing their role as expected by the contractual arrangement they have gone with the trustees, and they are following not only what they signed in, but they are adhering to it. So we are able to work out with the fund manager not only to ensure that they are adhering to the scheme investment policy, but also are dynamic enough to be innovative and come up with new developments that we can be able to advise our board, that we can now open up our investments to these directions. So we are the think tank, put it so, for the board of trustees, and making sure that these players, the fund managers, the custodians, are doing their role, and ultimately we are creating value to the member. So the ultimate objective of our existence is to ask ourselves every morning, what is it that can be done better so that the member can get a better return and a decent retirement upon exit from service. Okay. So those are the things we work on. We currently have an administrator. And I know many people are wondering whether it's a double role, because the administrator is really doing the day-to-day records, the day-to-day computations. But before they determine who to pay, they need a place where they can get these records for authenticity. So we maintain the records of the members, we share with the administrator, and we are working closely to ensure that we serve our members. Because the key thing for a pension scheme Latif is to ensure that you determine the pensions of a member accurately, without errors, and pay them the right amount and on time. So that is the role that we play as a secretariat, the team that I head as the CEO.
The law is also very, very strict on how these pension schemes operate. Absolutely. That once you have established a pension scheme and you have determined how the contributions will be coming from the member, from the employer, those then are mandated to follow that, is it not?
Yes.
That if you say it's monthly, employee contributes 1%, employer contributes 2%, then monthly they must contribute.
They must do that.
And when they don't, then there are repercussions to it.
Absolutely.
Because it affects the interest and everything else and the operations of the fund.
Correct.
Now yours, Buena, the employer is an entity that is... How does even the RBA ensure that the government will contribute its 2.4 billion shillings into the scheme every month without fail?
All right, very, very interesting, Chair. We are a creation of the law. And the government, which is the sponsor of this scheme, is a respect of the law. And they respect the roles and the rules of even the regulators, which is their own. They actually oversight them as well. So it is a very interesting scenario. We are not seeing a situation where a government establishes an obligation on themselves and renegates from it. What we have even done in our Act for Comfort is that anytime there is a delay in contributions, there is a rate of interest that is subjected to it. And we have a continuous engagement. Anytime a month comes to an end, we are able to inform the National Treasury that this is the amount of money we are expecting, and this is the interest, just in case you delay remittance. So really, it's a commitment they have done, and I don't see them renegating out of it, because they also have to observe the law, as it were.
Have they? So they have not been. They have not.
For the times we have had a delay, I think for maybe 1 or 2 months, we have had a promise, we have had a follow-up, and they have always honored their obligation.
Okay.
So if we are talking about now, we are in the month of January. So if we have not received the sponsors' contribution of, say, November and December and thereabouts, it is not a very big cause of alarm, even within the regulator, because again, we understand the size of obligation that they have to contribute. So I guess they have to do their balancing of their books. And the beauty of government is that once they set aside, they can even give you, they pay in lump sum everything that is actually remaining. Yeah. So we have not reached a point to be a concern in terms of sponsors' contribution. We are still having a very, very good engagement and good relationship. And it's to their interest, by the way, that they also support a funded arrangement as opposed to having a promise which they don't know how they'll be sourcing the funds.
Given that you operationalize in 2021, I'm thinking, so the members who contribute to it, when do you expect to start paying people their dues?
Okay, very, very good. So if you look at the average maturity age of our membership, I think we're looking at around 20 years. But then every member has their age of retirement, isn't it? So if you are 48 years, the normal retirement age in Kenya, we are talking about
65, is it?
60.
60.
So we're talking about 12 years.
What?
That's the oldest. Somebody who is 48 now will be exiting and will be able to pay their retirement benefits at that time. Those who are 46 will have more years and all that. So at the moment, we don't have a lot of pressure in paying out the normal retirement benefits. What we are really paying largely are those who exit because of the unfortunate situation of death, and we pay their beneficiaries. But let me mention this. The police service have a different retirement ages. That's something to mention, because there are those who sign in the discipline service and they say we only want to serve for 12 years or 15 years. So we come in to pay them also when they reach their retirement time. Yes.
But from your books, you can see
yes
how the age graph looks like.
Yes.
So when do you expect to start having the highest pressure with retiring civil servants, public servants?
I guess when we complete the 15 years after 2021, that is that's where we'll have a spike, because it will not only be the normal ones, we'll have people now exiting and getting the retirements. So I'm looking at a period of around 12 years from now. That's when we'll now be talking about monthly people retiring, and we are able to pay them. Yes.
Something I'd like to know.
Yes.
These benefits that they get, yes, the individual contributes, the government contributes. Now, where do you invest this money? Because I know it doesn't just sit there.
Yes.
And when one retires, do they get a lump sum, and thereafter it is bye-bye, we'll see you, well, we definitely won't see you, or is it you get a small amount and then over time, over a monthly, and does that correspond with the market or whatever the gains they have on the investment? How do you determine what they're paid?
Okay, two questions that has come from you. One is where do we put the investments?
Yes.
And I have said that we have a very clear area under the investment policy of how we do the investment. At the moment, we're in government securities largely, and of course term deposits. But going forward, and within this particular calendar year, we are diversifying to equity markets, to go to the securities exchange. We are also going to property, which we are also looking at private equity funds that can give a very good return. So we have that array, including even offshore, or including even going to areas of Kenya's Eurobond, as it may be. But all this, I have to say, every investment must be analyzed, must be determined an expected return, must consider the risk appetite, and all of us have to come in and say, yes, this is an area we go to. Now, let me answer your second question in terms of when you exit service, say at the age of 60, Do we give you your lump sum and close the account, or we give you a monthly pension? So we are a pension scheme. Pension, I mean the word even annuity. We give you an annuity, a continuous payment. You know, that's superannuation, and it brings us the issue of annuity. So what you do is that at the exit, you will take part of your accumulated fund in your account as lump sum, and the balance you are able to get a pension through what we call income drawdown. Income drawdown means you can draw down from the scheme a portion of it, or you buy an annuity from annuity providers. What do I mean from this? Like an insurance firm. I'm aware that many Kenyans are aware that sometimes you can give some lump sum to an insurance provider, and they promise to give you a monthly pension. So that's what you talk on annuity. You can buy an annuity upon exit. So part of it will be in lump sum, and of course the rest will be serving your monthly payment. Now, if you pass on, I mean those who exit service because of unfortunate scenario of death, your beneficiaries, we close the account. We give you a lump sum and close that account.
Okay.
That's how the law and the operation is.
Very briefly on this, what's the rationale behind making a scheme like this mandatory? One would assume that if you don't, that folks are not likely to contribute towards the pension, but what's the rationale?
Very, very good question. If you ask me, it is the right thing to make it mandatory. It's the right thing to make it obligation, because retirement is real. As long as you are serving in any service in government, one sure thing is time will come when you will exit. So if you give people the option of choosing, you know, and I know many people have been complaining that when you deduct or you touch their payslip because of the short-term focus of what they want to enjoy today.
Yeah.
But there is a sure thing called retirement, and it has to be managed and made obligatory so that you don't put pressure to government through cash transfers or other alternatives at the time of exit. So it's the rationale is that because really you can't escape retirement or exit from employment. A time will come when your body will not be able to support yourself. And when you're able to support, you can have other alternative ways of savings, like SACCOs. You put your deposits, but let the retirement funds take care of that age when you're not having the strength.
Kabisa.
Yes.
Dr. Thank you very much for joining us. Dr. Jonah Ayaibei, the CEO of the Public Service Superannuation Scheme. Very enlightening conversation. Thank you for tuning in to the Situation Room today.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.